Hello. Today's review is George Dickel Rye Whiskey. George Dickel is a distillery owned by the Diageo company, and they're famous for producing very good Tennessee whiskey in Cascade Hollow, Tennessee. If you go to the website for George Dickel, there will be no reference to George Dickel Rye Whiskey. And you may wonder why. I wondered why. Because they make good Tennessee whiskey. Why don't they reference the rye whiskey on their website? I don't have an official reason, but I suspect it may have something to do with the fact that this whiskey is not actually made in Tennessee. It's not technically Tennessee whiskey. It's whiskey that is distilled in Indiana and bottled in Illinois. But that being said, if you read the label on this bottle, to me it kind of implies that it was made in Tennessee. Actually, they don't really come out and say that, and they don't maybe even imply it. But they talk about George Dickel, who was a real person, who founded a distillery back in 1870 in Tennessee and ran it till he died in, I think, he established it in 1870, and then I think he died in 1894. The distillery continued till 1919 when Prohibition came in, one of the most ridiculous government policies of all time. And then it stopped and resumed in 1958. And from 1958 to the present day, George Dickel is a good, reliable brand for Tennessee whiskey. They produce whiskey in Tennessee. This is not. This is, as I said, distilled in Indiana by a company, at one time was called Lawrenceburg Distillers Indiana, or LDI. I think since then the ownership has changed and it has a new name. In any case, I like this whiskey. I am not hung up on the fact that it is not distilled in Tennessee, and I think Diageo, who own this brand, should promote this bottle on their website for George Dickel. So now let's move to the tasting note. Let's nose this. I pick up grapefruit. Certainly a rye bread. I'll tell you right now, the mash bill on this is 95% rye and 5% malted barley. And there's no corn component to this mash bill. So without even tasting this, you're going to think rye. This is going to be spicy. We'll see. I taste rye. I taste rye bread. There is some spice to it, but it's surprisingly refined. This is 90 proof, 45% by alcohol per volume, and at 45% or 90 proof, I'm actually fearful that it might be a bit too strong. And I'm drinking this undiluted, and I wouldn't add water to this whiskey. I enjoy it straight. And the price point is $25. I bought it in New Hampshire actually for $24. And that's not on sale or discounted. That's the normal retail price. And I have to say, I was very impressed when I first tasted this. And even now when I drink it, I'm really surprised. So, what do I taste? I do have some notes. I taste limes, grapefruit. It's got a citrus profile to the taste, but the citrus is not so much orange. It has more orange rind, orange peel, grapefruit, grapefruit seeds almost. You have the rye bread action going on. Obviously, this is a big rye whiskey. And because there's no corn in the mash bill, you're not getting the typical corn sweetness that you would identify with a lot of American whiskey, like, say, Jack Daniels. This is much more robust than Jack Daniel's Old Number 7. I prefer this to Jack Daniel's Old Number 7. Bit of, on the palate, I'm getting some fennel too, some burnt caramel, some oak, a little bit of char, and it's all good. Now, let's move to the finish. When you swallow this, there's a little tingle in your nose. Mid-palate, I talked about the citrus notes. I'm thinking apricot. That's not really ripe, still pretty firm, shouldn't be removed from the tree. On the finish, you have a long, nice, rye, spiced finish with oak, some caramel, some candy cane. This is really, really good for $24, $25. I highly recommend it. I wouldn't add it to water. I think I can easily see this being a very good base for a whiskey cocktail like a Manhattan or a sidecar. I really like this, and I think there's been some chatter on the internet dissing it because it wasn't made in Tennessee. Who cares? All we care about is what it tastes like and what's the price. And for $25 across the US, this is excellent value. I do not believe it's available in Canada at this time. As for Europe and the rest of the world, India, I got a lot of readers in India. Don't think you can get it there. Don't know about duty free, but if you visit the US, grab it. Highly recommended. Cheers, and until next time, have a good day.